Well, good evening, good people. We are back. We are back. Welcome to the Brownsville Minute. We have been actually, didn't I see you all last night? You were there, and I'm glad that you are joining us this evening once again to the Brownsville Minute. I am, once again, excited to welcome you to a wonderful, intimate conversation that we are having specifically about the issues that concern our residents within our community, within our district. We have decided as residents of Ocean Hill, Brownsville, and also, in fact, I'm going to include all of East Brooklyn. Shout out to Brooklyn, because it's important that when we are coming to the table that we provide information from credible messengers that is centered in love and in unity. And tonight is going to be a continuation of the conversation that is really at the top of mind. In addition to all of our concerns that we've been having, particularly with COVID-19, as it relates to the economics of our community, it is important for us to discuss something that's coming on November the 3rd. No, not just my birthday, because November 3rd is my birthday, 11375. But we're not talking about my birthday. We are talking about the election. And we have another dynamic speaker that is going to be helping us to rally us up, make sure that we are taking advantage of early voting because it has begun since October the 24th. But we are really going to unpack the conversation about what it really means to support our elected officials once they are in office at all levels. Because as we know, it's not just the peaceful protests that we have been doing. It is not just the boycotting that we have been doing, but it's also the legislation and the laws that are in place, even currently, that have an impact on our communities. So we're going to unpack that. Like, how do we really do that? How do we get something into law that can really help our community grow? So I am excited to welcome one of the district's finest, because when I say that the folks that I have been interviewing are really on the ground, really doing the work, really sacrificing. And like I also say that when you are putting yourself out there in public leadership, public space, you better make sure that whether you like them a lot or not, please keep these folks who are putting themselves out there in prayer. I want to throw that out there because I believe that when someone stands up in the space of wanting to support and do the work of their community, that part of our responsibility, which is to support, to hold them accountable, but not only that, keep them covered in prayer, whether you like them or not. Important. So I have the distinct opportunity to bring to the table District 20, Senate District, Senator Zelnor Myrie. We're going to do like a virtual applause. Woo. Hi there, Senator. How are you?
I am so good, Anita. It is good to be here. Before we continue, and for the viewers, this was not planned. My birthday is also on November 3rd, on Tuesday. And so we are birthday twins. We happen to be election day birthday twins.
That's right.
So we are in the building. I'm so happy to be with you tonight.
Oh, I did not know that.
Yeah. Look at that.
So boom.
Boom. We in the building.
I'll put that out there. Scorpios in the house.
Yes. Gang. Y'all already know.
Already on election season. So
Yeah.
I am welcoming you. Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule. I know that this is a huge time. We're in the midst of early election, early voting. But before I get into that, and the other reason why we're here, I want to just pretty much unpack, for the audience, who are you? What do you really do? Let's start with that. And as a second question, why did you run for office?
Thank you for that. And again, let me just say thank you for having me on. I know you had my sisters in government on last night, Assemblywoman Latrice Walker, Councilmember Ampry-Samuel. I represent Brownsville, Ocean Hill, Brownsville, along with some other neighborhoods with them in government. It's always good to have some good Black girl magic, and I'm happy to be a part of that with you tonight as well, Anita. So people hear state senator, you have no idea what that means, what you actually do. And by the Constitution of the state of New York, my job is to pass laws. I am a lawmaker. We hear that phrase a lot. Lawmakers do this. Lawmakers decide to do that. That is an integral part of my job. I make the laws that impact 20 million people in the state of New York. But I also have a responsibility to lead in my community. And so we have district offices where people can come in and get help, constituent services. You don't know how to navigate a particular government program, we're here to assist you. You're having trouble with relations with your landlord, we're here to assist you. You don't feel safe in your neighborhood and you want something to be done, we are here to assist you. And so my job entails making the laws, but also taking care of the community needs. Now, the reason that I ran, I'm born and raised in Brooklyn. I'm from Flatbush. I live on Flatbush still. I went to public schools in Brooklyn. And I ran because I grew up in a rent-stabilized apartment. Me and my mom came to this country 40 years ago. She came on the promise of a job in a factory and a mattress in her friend's bedroom. She was going to stay here for a little bit, send some money back, you know how our people do, and then go back, but ended up staying. And that stability that I had in a rent-stabilized apartment allowed for me to focus on education, allowed me to go to college, go to law school, become a lawyer, and ultimately become a state senator. But our rent stabilization laws were controlled by the state. You hear that lawmaker piece? That was controlled by the state. And up until 2019, the state Senate was controlled by Republicans. And they didn't want to do anything to help people that lived in rent-stabilized apartments like myself and like most of the folks in my district. And so the laws were up for renewal in 2019. And I said, if we don't do this thing right, if we don't ensure that the laws protect our affordability, if they don't help bring down evictions, then we're going to be in trouble. And I didn't initially think that I was going to be the person to run. I spoke to a number of colleagues that I knew, people that I knew in the community. I said, this is something great for you to step up and do. And everyone had some reason why they shouldn't have run. And I decided, look, I grew up here. I have ownership here. I'm from the community. I have a certain skill set that God gave me, you know, a fortunate circumstance to acquire. So I'm going to put myself forward. And so I did. And it was a long path. We door to door wins the war. That's how we got it done. And here I am. You know, in 2019, in June, we passed the most progressive tenant protections in this state's history. And we were only able to do it because the people of the community spoke up and elected folks like myself who were able to come in strong and really focus on that issue. And so I'm, again, just excited to be here, happy to talk through and demystify the legislative process, and appreciate what you're doing, Anita, for your audience and for the viewers, because it's important for us to have this information.
Well, thank you for that. And I hope that for those who are watching live, because we do have a number of folks who are joining us live, please, we welcome any questions that you have for the senator. We are going to be here for a little bit, just really unpacking what this looks like. So what committees do you currently serve on, so that we know when we come running down to your office, we know what to address?
This is such a good question because people, it's a question that people often don't ask. And you see politicians, and particularly people who serve in the state, city, or federal legislature, and you think we just all kind of go in and we have debates and then walk out. But really the magic where things really get done is on the committee level first. It can't go to the full body unless it's the committee. And the committees that your legislator, the one that represents you, sits on, will impact their ability to get laws passed. And so I serve as chair of the Elections Committee. That's one. I also serve on the Judiciary Committee, which controls the laws that impact our courts. I also sit on the Codes Committee, which impacts the laws of criminal procedure. I sit on the Crime, Corrections, and Crime Victims Committee, which oversees our correctional facilities and deals with some other criminal laws. I sit on the Housing Committee, which is pretty straightforward, impacts our housing laws. And I also sit on the Social Services Committee, which impacts all of our social service laws.
Were you selected or did you choose those committees?
So the chairmanship was at the discretion of the majority leader, Senator Andrea Stewart-Cousins. Now I had I put in my request. I ranked elections very high, and she selected me to be chair. All the other committees, I also ranked them because these were, in my mind, what impacted our community the most. You look at a neighborhood like Ocean Hill, Brownsville, where we have fed the mass incarceration complex, and we have made a lot of money for people upstate by way of taking away our liberty. I thought it was important for me to be on those committees that determine how our criminal legal system operates. And so by way of codes, corrections, and judiciary, I get to have that impact. But as you just heard me said, housing was something that was incredibly important to me. And I wanted to make sure I was on that committee as well in order to have the impacts on my constituents. And so it was a mix of both, but I did rank them, and I was very fortunate to be selected.
And that's great to know, because it seems like all of the committees that in which you are serving on currently are ones that we have a number of concerns, particularly within I'll just say East Brooklyn, because I don't want to say this is just a Ocean Hill, Brownsville issue, even though this is targeted for the residents of Ocean Hill, Brownsville, but it's a citywide issue that that those particular committees have concerns. So it's good to know that, actually, as I'm thinking about it, there's some connections as to what you have your colleagues at the city, the assembly, and also the council level, that there are similar committees in which you all serve on. So I think that's pretty dope, because I don't think that, since I have been really actively paying attention to voting and what that really means, because I've always voted. I always, went to the polls. But I didn't really understand or really paid attention to who was in office, who I was really voting in office. Really, about the last 10 years is when I really got really focused on, it's connected to this. These dots are connected. And so having leaders that sit on committees where there are concerns that are attached to our communities, I don't recall in the last 10 years that has really happened. So that is pretty amazing. And shout out to you all for your commitment and dedication to try to help to solve, some of those issues within our communities.
It's exciting, Anita, and you are right. I'll add something else that, Assemblywoman Walker, Councilmember Ampry-Samuel, and myself, we all have law degrees, and that has never happened for representation in Brownsville on all three of those levels. And what I think it serves two purposes. One, it shows our people in East Brooklyn that you too can be who you need to be and shine in this world and be from these neighborhoods. But it also gives us a skill set so that we can be effective in advocating for the community and writing these laws. And so it's such a good point that you bring up, that we share that. It empowers us to do what we need to do for the community.
And side joke, because everyone knows that you're lawyers, I'm sure they probably come like, listen, I need representation.
we gotta stay out of trouble, man. We gotta stay out of trouble.
They say, hook me up, because I know Senator Moore, he's a lawyer. Come get me.
Right. That's
Um,
right. That's right.
um, so I want to really get into the so you mentioned that you are really a part of the policies and able to create change that way. So do we just run up as community, just run in your office and say, listen, Senator Myrie, you know, I don't know. I'm just, I'll use businesses, right? So there is a issue where we have to, when you create an LLC, that you have to now publish. We're in 2020. How can I come to your office and say, how do we change the publishing part of the LLC? Like, what do we do with that? Does something like that, is there a bill that's currently in existence that we can help to support specifically for small businesses, as an example? Now, dealing with small businesses, that's not one of your committees, but I'm sure we will have to go and navigate with one of your counterparts and say, hey, listen, how do we need to run up in their office? Tell us what
Mhm.
to do.
Yeah, Anita, this is really good, and I hope people are paying attention. And if you can't watch the show, I'm hoping that people can access it somehow.
Yeah.
Yes. So this is what's really key. When you have an idea, you say some problem should be fixed, and perhaps there is a law that can be written. Yes, the initial step for you should be to go to your legislator. But before you go, make sure you know the committees that they sit on. And why do I say that? If I have a bill, I'm the chair of the elections committee. If you say there's something we could change with our elections, I'm your guy, because I can move that in my committee. And that is my level of expertise. I know the election law, and I'll be able to help you out. That's not to say that I'm not going to do other things, but it is easier for me to latch on and to say, okay, let's run with it. But even if I'm not on that committee, Anita, I'm going to use the example that you gave me, the publishing requirement for LLC. So off the top of my head, I don't know what the law is on that immediately, but I suspect that the publishing requirement is a burden, a cost burden on businesses for you to publish in newspapers that no one reads, and that could be accomplished in some other way. And so my first step as a legislator would be, okay, I get that email from you. You lay it out in a nice, succinct email, or you call the office and you say, I have this idea. Can you relay it to the senator? I'm going to look at that, and I'm going to talk to the folks on my legislative team who are stationed up in Albany. And I'm going to say, I heard from a constituent or a small business or a stakeholder that here's an idea on how we could do it. Let's look in the general business law, because I suspect that's where it would be, and see if there's any provision that allows for some alternative to publishing in an old school way that doesn't reach people. And then we get the ball rolling, right? If there's no bill out in the universe, we will draft the bill. Then I'd say, Anita, look at the draft, see if this is accomplishing what you think it should. And you say, well, yes, but on line 36, I don't think it's quite right. Let's change that. Okay, we change that. And then we introduce the bill. And then it goes to whatever committee the subject matter is. So for this particular bill, it would probably go to either our consumer protection or our economic development committee. Once it is in that committee and I'm not on it, I'm going to lobby my colleague who's the chair of that committee and say, hey, look, I got a really great bill. My constituent, my small business owner came to me, said, here's the issue. Can you please bring this up at a committee meeting? Because the bill cannot move to the full legislature unless it is voted out of committee. So the goal would be to get it brought up in a committee meeting, to have discussion, debate, if any, and then have it voted on to go to the floor. So I would encourage folks, if you have ideas, let us know. We are, again, by definition, by the New York Constitution, we are lawmakers. We make the laws. So please come to us with your ideas. Now, Anita, you may come to me with something completely different that doesn't require a legislative fix. I may say, actually, we can just call up the small business commissioner and say, can you change this regulation? Can you waive this requirement? And they may say, okay, cool, we'll do it. And that may be it. But we don't know that if you don't reach out to us. So call us, email us. You can run down on us if you'd like, whatever it is. We work for you, and we're happy to mold the idea and try to get it into law.
I want to say that to the folks, because I know that someone's going to say, oh, it's not that easy. We're in COVID. I personally, honestly think it's a lot easier to reach a number of the constituent offices that are in place. You don't have to run in there. You can email and are very responsive, I may say. So I don't want to hear that, oh, we put them in office and they don't respond. And I want to say something also, because kudos to, I don't know what your selection process and your staffing, but you have some really amazing staff members. They're very responsive, and this is to all of the new leadership that's in office. So I always like to give kudos to great customer service because that's important, especially when we're dealing with a lot of constituents, particularly in my community. So I want to just repeat at a high level how simplified the process is, because we have a number of laws that are in place that are, some of them are very connected to racism, and we know that, right? And so when we're thinking about how are we to collectively strategize, in addition to the protests, because the protests are important, and just as important as creating change or making adjustments to laws that can definitely help to uplift our community. So I am going to pause just for a little bit to see if there are any questions from the community before we move on. And they will probably come in as we continue our conversation. So just bear with my eyesight and patience. Okay, I don't have any at the moment, but I'm sure they'll come in. Moving along, so we can just run in your office, email,
call us. We have during COVID-19, we're doing constituent services by appointment. If you want to come into the office directly, you have to make an appointment, and that's only because we're trying to be safe. And we want to protect you, but we also want to protect my staff. I want to underscore what you said. An elected official is nothing without their staff. And I'm so grateful for mine. They do an incredible job. It's not an easy job. It is really essential work that is done for the community. And so I'm very grateful to them. But if you want to see us in person, you can call us, make an appointment, and we'll make it happen. If you have policy ideas, call us, email us. I think Anita made the point very well. It is not hard to reach us. And if you do not get a response, you got to let us know and let me know. There's times, look, my staff has been overwhelmed. They miss an email, they miss a call, they don't call someone back. I'm at a community event, and so, someone runs up on me and says, Senator, I called your office and I didn't get a response. What's up with that? And I'm like, okay, tell me when. Who did you speak to, or when did you leave the message? And I'll be happy to get with you. So, please just let us know because we work for you. Y'all are our bosses, and we're here to serve.
And so, while you were talking, Senator, we do have. Hey, David. I think this is the David that I know. Hey, David Alexander. So, David asks, can we get a review of the responsibilities of our elected officials?
So, David, thank you for the question. It's not easy to encapsulate all of this shortly, so I'm going to try my best to keep it sort of top level, but and perhaps give you some places to research even further. So, as far as elected officials go, we elect executives to run the show and execute our laws and we elect legislators to write the laws. In New York, we also happen to elect some judges that determine the constitutionality of our laws, but that's a separate conversation and perhaps a separate Brownsville Minute show. The legislature is charged with making the laws. And so you elect me to stick up for you, to make laws that are helpful to the community, but also to vote against laws that are harmful to the community. The executives carry out the laws that we pass and are the ones with a lot of power, particularly on the state level. Our governor, by constitution, has a lot of influence over your day-to-day life. So all of the agencies that you interact with, you think about the Department of Transportation, the Department of Sanitation, the Health Department, particularly under this pandemic, the Department of Social Services. These are all ran by our mayor and our governor, and they have influence over how those services happen. We as a legislature, we are a co-equal branch. And so we're supposed to hold them responsible when we feel that they're not serving our community adequately. So you may have seen times where I come out pretty strongly against a policy that the mayor or the governor has implemented, or I'll say, you're not doing enough for our community. And, we eventually work it out and I think get to the right solution. But those are the different roles that those elected officials play. Now, there are some unique roles, like the public advocate of the city of New York, and that is right now Jumaane Williams, who have a little bit of legislative power. He can introduce bills, doesn't run particular agencies, but is there as a voice and a check against the mayor. And so all of these things, and I'll think through, Anita, perhaps I'll send over a link with just sort of some basic civic education material that'll help people know exactly who they should go to. Because here's what ends up happening. Even on the legislative side, I'm a state legislator in the state Senate. You have an assembly member, Latrice Walker, who's in the assembly. Council member Alicka Ampry-Samuel is on the city level. Above me is our Congress. And we have Congressmember Yvette Clarke, who represents most of Brownsville, but also Congressmember Hakeem Jeffries. We all have different jurisdictions of the law. I can't make city law. I can't make federal law. I can make state law. So you may come to me with an issue and say, I really need help with Medicare, for instance, and I need you to push on Medicare. Now, we're going to try to help you as much as we can, but that is a federal issue. It is a federal agency. So that's probably something that your Congress member should handle and not us. And so it's a great question, David, because if people are more aware of who does what and who has jurisdiction over what, then they can help themselves better.
And I would also add, not be afraid to reach out to your representatives, because I think that one of the things that I can particularly recall from my experience is that, and not really having a clear understanding about when you vote someone in office, it's like you vote them in office and you just leave them there. Mm-hmm. Not really understanding that there is a relationship that we should be developing. Yes, you're not going to know all of the individuals that you are serving. That's just not realistic. But the more you're able to come and advocate, then you can actually be able to do more work within a community together, and not just leave the representatives in the office for themselves. So we are having more questions coming in. So I am going to post them and also read to help. So this one is for and forgive me for not pronouncing the name correctly. So I'll go with Moran as the last name. A concern of data mining and privacy are major concerns to me here in Brownsville. Are there any efforts coming from your office concerning this particular matter?
This is an excellent question. It looks like Trinae Moran. We have the chair of the Consumer Protection. I actually left off a committee that I'm on, the Consumer Protection Committee. The chair of that committee, Senator Kevin Thomas out in Long Island, he introduced something called the Data Privacy Act, which speaks to this exact issue. I co-sponsor that bill. I am a supporter of that bill, and it gets to some of your concerns in that our greatest currency today is our data. The social network companies, other companies utilize our data and they monetize it, make money off of it, and we get nothing. And we have no protections for how they use that. And there are technical permissions that we give just by utilizing the service, but most people don't know that they're giving that away when they're just trying to stay connected to their friends, families, and neighbors. And so this Data Privacy Act, I think, is something that we should be strongly considering for passage next legislative session. And I think it's a tool, particularly in Brownsville, and you mentioned gentrification, it is something that we can leverage as a community, our Black people, our brown people. We should be leveraging our data and our information to get resources back into the community. Why should our major social networks, Google, the big tech industry, why should they make all the money off of us, off of our data? We should be able to reap some of those benefits and to be able to do so with the proper protections. And so it's an excellent question. I'm supportive of further privacy on that end and really seeing how we can leverage it for our own benefit.
Thank you for answering that. I am going to just check to see if there are any more, but there's a comment as well that there's a definite fear reaching out from the community. So I can say from that they can definitely say from personal experience. And thank you for your questions. Just going to look again to see if there's any more questions before I pull one of mine out. Okay, great. So this election, this election,
you gotta laugh, right? Because if not,
this election. So I can tell you that I have minimized a lot of what my eyes has seen on TV. I just read what's there, from credible sources, not really all from social media. Why should we vote?
Yeah. This is without hyperbole, without exaggeration, the most consequential election of our lifetimes. And I say that having been, my first vote ever was for Barack Obama in 2008. And we felt then that was the most important election of our lifetimes. And perhaps it was up until that point. What we are seeing right now is whether we will continue to have a republic, an imperfect republic, to be clear, or whether we are going in a completely different direction that will tear at the very fabric of this country. And so, to me, it's not, if I have to do any convincing on why it's important to vote in this election, then I'm not sure I'm going to be successful at this point if you haven't been convinced to engage. But let me give you some more reasons. It isn't just at the presidential level. We have congressional races, we have state races. And these down ballot races actually impact your day-to-day life more than the presidential. Anita, you said you tried to mitigate your intake because all we hear about is Trump, 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 Trump. And that is unhealthy. There are only so many things that you can process, only so many norms you can see broken, so many bad news incidents that you can see without it affecting your emotional and mental health. But you can spend some of that energy investing in a local candidate for Congress or for the Senate or the Assembly, because you know that our criminal legal system laws are determined locally. Our housing laws are determined locally. Money for our schools determined locally. And so you can, I think, mitigate some of that impact and some of the influences. And if for nothing else, show up and vote for those issues. Now, even if you can't feel directly what that impact is, let me tell you how the business works. If you're an elected official and you only respond to political pressure and you get 2 phone calls, one phone call is from a block where 90% of the people voted, and the other phone call is from a block where 30% of the people voted. Those 2 people call me at the same time. Both of them ask for their streets to be paved. If I was a different type of elected official, who do you think I'm going to answer first? Who do you think I'm going to invest more time in? You're going to respond to the people that you believe will pressure you politically in order to act. Now, again, that's not how I operate, but that is how the system operates. And so even if you don't have an issue now and your life is 100% okay, God bless you. I pray that blessing for myself as well. You don't know what's going to happen in the future. And you don't know what you're going to need in the future. You don't know what your block, your neighborhood, your borough is going to need in the future. Make sure that you engage and that you vote so people know that they can't play with you. People know that they can't ignore you. You think about why certain communities get certain things, look at the voting rates, and then compare. And so that's why everywhere that I go, not just in my capacity as chair of the elections committee, but really for Black empowerment, I urge people to engage in the system so that we can force people to respond to us.
So I don't want to hear any excuses as to why we are not engaging on our birthdays. Let's talk about that.
Come on.
On our birthdays, right?
That's right. That's
right.
right.
So now I'm like super excited. I participated in early voting because I wanted to do other things, community engagement on that day to get other folks to vote. That's how I wanted to spend my part of my birthday. So I do have another question that I'm going to post. This is from Dr. Cleopatra Brown. Hi, Dr. Cleopatra Brown. Are there any laws being created around those incarcerated with life sentences? And are there any cases under review for shorter sentences? Thank you, Dr. Brown, for your question.
Thank you, Dr. Brown. This is an excellent question. As I mentioned, I serve on the Codes and the Corrections Committee. And so how we do sentencing, how we do parole, how we consider the release of those who are incarcerated is really a top level issue for me. I had the opportunity to teach constitutional law in Auburn Correctional Facility. It is the oldest prison in the United States. It is upstate in New York, first prison to have an execution, and of course, a part of the mass incarceration complex right here in the state of New York. And I taught many of the students who came from Brooklyn, who came from Ocean Hill, Brownsville, who came from East Flatbush, Crown Heights. And it was a life-changing experience because what it taught me was that we do not have a correctional system. We do not have a rehabilitative system. We have a punishment system, one that doesn't care about whether you have rehabilitated yourself inside, one that doesn't invest in education and skills training while you're there to make sure that when you come out, you are contributing to our society. We have a system in which you can work every day and make 60 cents an hour while the companies profit off your labor to the tune of tens of millions of dollars a year. And so I have taken it upon myself to introduce legislation to try to attack some of these problems. I introduced a prison minimum wage bill so that we can get those wages up, allow people to be productive while they're inside, and then come back outside with a little bit of money in their pockets. I have co-sponsored legislation that would restore TAP and Pell to higher education programs while folks are inside. And I've sponsored legislation that would have our district attorneys re-examine the sentences that they've given to folks and have people considered for release based on the interest of justice. And what do we mean by the interest of justice? There are several factors that we can look at. People commit tough and horrible crimes, yes, most of that happens when you are very young. And the science has shown us that the brain is not fully developed until about the age of 25 to 26. And also that post 30 years old, your propensity for violence goes down drastically. And so, with that science in mind, I think it's important for us to reconsider, like Dr. Brown is pointing out, some of the harsher sentences that were meted out earlier in the 90s and the early 2000s. And so this bill would allow for the district attorneys to petition the court and say, we got to re-examine this sentence, let this person out because they don't pose a threat to public safety. They've rehabilitated themselves inside. They have all of these certifications. They've taken part in these programs. This person needs to come out and no longer be incarcerated. But we also need to give those who are inside the legal tools for them to petition the court as well. And so I've introduced legislation that would allow for them to do that, would allow for them to declare their innocence in certain cases, but also to automatically be considered for parole when they hit a certain age. And so I think those are some of the ways that we're getting at this. It is not the only solution, but I believe we have been overly harsh. There are people still inside that should not be inside. And I've used the power to introduce legislation to try to get at that. I hope we can get it across the line next legislative session.
Thank you. So I have another question coming from, these are two board members from Community Board 16. I did not set this up. I just want to put that out there. So thank you both for joining. But David Alexander has another question about the reentry program. Is it still in operation? If yes, how useful has this program been regard to housing, employment, social, emotional, mental health, reintegration into their community?
Thank you, David. Another good question. So there is a reentry program. I believe that it is not adequate. You know, we held the first ever job fair in a New York correctional facility last year. It was something that I allocated money for in the state budget. And we went to Queensboro Correctional Facility. There were brothers out there that were just about to get out. We had employers come inside the facility and talk to folks and get them ready for some job opportunities when they would come out. And in my discussions with some of the brothers that were inside, and even with some of the employers, is that the reentry program does the bare minimum as it's currently constructed. And so you get out of a correctional facility and you get like a real flimsy sort of book that is not up to date, that is not exhaustive, that doesn't direct you to these mental health services that you're discussing that are needed, emotional health services. And so what we have is a system in which we rely on nonprofits trying to fill that gap. And so the Fortune Society happens to be one of those that does a really great job at this. They try to holistically deal with reintegration into society. But I think we have to do a lot more because it's not just when you get out having the resources, but you mentioned housing, education, opportunities. You are discriminated against depending on the record that you have. And I am introducing legislation that would work on automatic expungement of certain convictions because that is also a hindrance. So you could have done everything right. You have served your time. You have, quote unquote, paid back society for what you did. And then you get out and you can't get a job because people are still hung up on what you did and what you've already paid for. So in addition to having a more robust reentry program that directs you to the resources as soon as you get out, we need to have expungement so that people can start with a clean slate and you can give them the opportunities that they deserve to turn their life around.
So thank you for that, your response to that question. So I am going to just follow up again about, this election. Again, it's on our birthdays. I just want to point that out. I'm going to say this because as I'm getting closer to November 3rd, I'm getting excited about the election, but also very thankful to see my birthday.
Okay.
Do you have any final words of encouragement for, I know you mentioned this, about the importance of voting, but just really, having our residents in the state, right,
Mhm.
to really just get out and vote. I'm going to wrap up with your final words while I plug in your contact information for your office.
Excellent, excellent. So, let me say this. We look at the presidential primaries, right? And most of us know that if you want to be president of the United States, you got to start that journey in Iowa. And we wonder, well, what's so special about Iowa? Why do we have to go to Iowa? What makes Iowa different than any place else? But as the system is currently constructed, that is where you have to go. You have to win there if you want to compete anywhere else. And you're probably saying, so, well, what is Z talking about Iowa for? My vision for Brooklyn is that we become the Iowa of our politics. Meaning, if you want to be mayor of this city, if you want to be governor of this state, you want to be a Congress member, you want to be anything, you have to come through us. You have to listen to our needs and you have to deliver for us. The only way that we can do that, the only way that we can hold people accountable, make them feel like they have to respond to our needs, is if we come out and vote. And it has to be in record numbers. People have to know that you come through Brooklyn in order to be successful politically. So while the New York vote, that it will be no surprise, we will be going overwhelmingly for Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. While that is important and it's a good message to send, your vote not only serves as a repudiation of what we've seen over the past 4 years, it is a signal to everyone running in our city elections in 2021 that you have to respond to us. You got to do the things that are important to the people of Brooklyn. So again, you can vote early. Tomorrow, the hours are extended, 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. Saturday, again, 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. And then the last day of early voting is 7 a.m. to 4 p.m. on Sunday. Please take advantage of early voting. I had the honor of authoring the early voting bill in the Senate. It was amazing to see it in fruition over the past couple of days. It has been able, I think, to give people an opportunity to engage. So if you wanted to do something else, like Anita mentioned, you'll be free to do that. Utilize early voting. If you think the lines are long now, they will be longer on election day. Please participate in it. And this is the time to do it. We are at that moment. A lot of us have been waiting for this moment for a very long time. Engage, vote, 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 and vote early if you can.
And that's how you're going to celebrate our birthdays. So I'm going to continue.
Come on.
You are going to celebrate our birthdays by voting, but we're definitely encouraging early voting because I remember when I took Savannah and I to vote, there was a line, there was someone out there giving snacks. And so, just help. Okay, thank you. So you'll be able to have snacks, be able to support your community. If there's a person, a senior person, and you've already taken advantage of early voting, please consider knocking, walking your neighbor to, standing in line while they sit down and rest, just thinking about some ways that we could be supportive to our veterans and also seniors within the community. We have a lot of young folks who, are of age that have registered to vote. So please do not sit this one out. Don't sit any election out, but particularly do not sit this one out. There has been provisions that have been made so that we can vote early. So salute to you, Senator Myrie, for the work that you do. Continue to keep your elected officials in prayer. I want to emphasize that again, because I know that some of you may have joined late. And definitely the opportunity to create legislation, the doors are available. There are hours that have been set up to help to support your idea. Maybe something is already in existence that need to be brought up again. I put in the chat and the contact information of Senator Myrie's office. All of his satellite offices are in the chat. Definitely, if you want to reach out to help to introduce a bill within your state and that you're interested, again, this is an opportunity because never have I seen before that this has been so transparent, where we can really make changes with laws, right? With laws within our area. So with that, Senator Myrie, I want to say thank you for taking time out of your schedule. I mean, you know how Scorpios do. We friends for life now. We are friends for life.
That's right. That's right. No, I'm so grateful to have been on with you with my birthday twin. Thank you for this information. Thank you for using your platform to let people know what's going on in their community. It's really important. You could be doing a lot of other things with this platform, but you have elected to use it for the betterment and for edifying those in our community that need to know. So thank you, Anita, for what you do. And, I know this won't be the last time that I'm on. Again, as my birthday twin, I'm looking forward to a very, very happy Tuesday. And I'm hoping everyone comes out to make that a reality.
And on that note, I'm going to send you and no, Senator Myrie, when I do this, I got to say this, I'm not hitting on you, but I send out virtual kisses because, I think it's important for us to send and spread love with all of the craziness that we are having. So I'm sending you virtual kisses. And no, I'm not hitting on you. I don't want no rumors because I know how that stuff starts. So I've been saying Savannah's giving you kisses too.
Thank you, Savannah.
So I'm gonna say goodnight and thank you so much for joining.
Good night, everyone.
So wasn't that wonderful? We had the state senator come on and just be able to help us and
Anita, what are you doing?
Say hello because you're live. Say hello. That is my beautiful daughter that we are aiming to.
Who are you talking to?
I'm talking to all the folks that are live. And so while I am quite impressed as to what's happening, I am excited that we are going to be doing early voting. I am also going to put up some community information because, again, this is for the community. We are often, this is an opportunity for us to be able to share some events. So we have some wonderful events that are coming up. We have our virtual Veterans Appreciation Resource Fair that's going to be held on Saturday, November 7th. Please join our veterans as they are working to make this a wonderful event for you all. Those who are veterans, take an opportunity to go and to support that. I'm also going to put up this event. We're having a Halloween celebration on Marion Street. It's going to be held on Saturday, October 31st, 2020. This is an opportunity for you to come out, have a good time with your children. The adults I know still love to celebrate Halloween, so there you have it, an opportunity. There is an application that is available at Congressman Jeffries' office, where you can, for those who are interested in attending the United States America Service Academy, the deadline to submit application is Friday, December 4th, 2020. So if you know anyone who is interested in going to West Point, going to the Marine Academy, the Air Force Academy, and the U.S. Naval Academy, please submit your information over to Congressman Jeffries' house. The information is there. You can visit jeffries.house.gov. And one more There's a job fair that's happening on November the 18th, a virtual job fair. So if there is interest, please be sure to check it out. There is opportunity to do the job fair as well. And finally, November 3rd, it starts by showing up. But however, Senator Murray and his team have executed on ensuring that we have the opportunity to vote early. You have the opportunity up until November 1st to vote, and then the election day will be November 3rd, and again, which is our birthday. So,
is it your birthday?
Yes, it is. So
tomorrow's gonna be your birthday.
I am excited.
I'm so excited for you.
I am excited.
Stop pushing me.
I am excited for all, and wanted to just close out by saying thank you for joining the Brownsville Minute. Please be sure to take advantage of early voting. November 3rd, show up and show out. And I look forward to seeing you all again. And thank you all for joining the Brownsville Minute. All of the flyers will be posted at the Community Board 16 Facebook page if you missed it. This broadcast will also be on replay at Community Board 16 and also at 11375 business page as well. So I thank you so much for joining. I'm sending you all virtual kisses and hugs from myself and from Savannah. Make it a great evening.
Bye.